Hey, New One Nation. The Country Girl is back with another episode of Melanin Mayhem, your favorite pod about all the lesser known audacious criminals with melanated hues. If this is your first time, welcome to the pod and thanks for giving me a try. And if you are a regular, what it do, homie? I missed you something serious, baby. I can't wait to tell you about this week's Y'all know most episodes I'm unaffected, but something about this nigga this week got me all kinds of 38 hot, honey. 21 episodes in and a week full of epiphanies. I'm possibly on one today, so all I can do is try to prepare you until you get ready. I'm sorry, possibly in advance, probably not. Anywho, they say it's them quiet ones that you gotta look out for. And baby, the mayhem maker this week was one of those quiet ones. And he wasn't being introspective or shy. This nigga was plotting and planning and fucking executing. Literally, how to be the most sadistic, depraved serial killer he could be. What's so disturbing is that a common theme keeps reemerging. These niggas fit right into society a little bit, and the people in society that they come in contact with, they all say that they are regular, degular niggas. They ain't. They are killers and rapists and serial murderers. And this week's Mayhem Maker was one more in a long line of audacious, prolific, mad, master-minded men. I have the distinct displeasure of introducing you to Maury Travis, aka the Videotape Killer. Maury was a textbook definition of a serial killer. Cunning and self-indulgent and almost invisible in the community where he lived, and he victimized people of his own race. Born October 25, 1965 in St. Louis, Missouri, to Sandra and Michael Travis in the Carr Square Village Public Housing Project in St. Louis. He had a leg up on most project children, though. I ain't gonna lie, because he was born into a married, two-parent household. Wasn't no issues with defects. Nobody was in jail or on the streets. In 1975, when he was around 10 years old, the family moved to Ferguson, Missouri, a city that we all know now because of Michael Brown, but we should have known it then because of this nigga. 3 years after they moved to Ferguson, his parents got divorced around 1978. Unlike most of our Melanin Mayhem makers, Maury had a decent, normal childhood by all accounts. No evidence of child abuse or traumatic events other than his parents getting divorced. He was quiet, mannerable, a good boy that was just helpful and thoughtful. He went to school in Ferguson. I'm talking junior high and high school. And we know this because there are records. Like, there's a paper trail. He has a diploma. But when you ask around, nobody remembers this nigga. Like, anybody that went to school with him at the same time, they don't remember him. There is no photographic memory of this nigga at all. Like, he's not in any of the yearbook. And we're talking the 70s. Everybody was in the yearbook. Not this nigga. He just kind of faded into the background. Seen but not seen. Unremarkable, unrememberable. One of his teachers said that she had him in her remedial English class, and seeing as how he was 20 when he graduated, remedial English wasn't the only thing that he repeated. She describes him as ultra quiet. Like, there's quiet kids and then there's Maury. Her exact words were, quote, very quiet and withdrawn. Incredibly quiet for a teenager. Even the quiet ones can be noisy sometimes, but not him. I'm telling y'all, those be the ones. A neighbor of Maury said that he would cut her grass, unasked. Just come out there and Maury's out there cutting the grass. Say he trimmed up her hedges, just took care of her yard. Then he showed her how to use the trimmer so she could do it if she wanted to. He was just a little sweetheart. They all called him Toby. Toby was the gentlest boy that would not hurt a fly. And that might have been true of the young boy called Toby, but the man he grew to be, Maury, That nigga was diabolical, an apex predator whose prey was drug-addicted black women. Now, we know that Maury graduated high school in 1985 like the nigga was really 20 years old. He goes into the Army Reserves for 2 years and worked as a medical and dental assistant. And then he dipped out on that and he started fucking around with them trucks, but the life of a truck driver just wasn't for him. And then he just started working at a nursing home. It seems like Maury was just trying to find his calling, what was his place in this world, but nothing was sticking. But you see, his peoples was good, that pocketbook was on swole a little bit, so he was able to bounce around and try to find himself because his mama had his back. She was always there to clean up his messes and give him a soft place to land when he fucked up. Well, as sometimes happens with 20-somethings of melanated hues, and this nigga had an epiphany one day. He gonna go to school, but not no local college. Oh, no, no, no. He ain't sticking around Ferguson. It was time for him to head to the ATL, baby. He enrolled in Morris Brown College in 1987 when he was 22 years old. Okay, so like a lot of people that moved to my city, he got caught up and fucked around and found out that Atlanta ain't nothing nice if you don't have a plan and the resolve to stay on track. What'd he do, Nate? That nigga started fucking around with that damn crack. Sure did. You know things can only go wrong from here on out, right? Like, there's no good silver lining in a crackhead starting out, right? Well, here's a PSA. If you come down to Atlanta, don't let nobody get you on some shit. And it's all kind of shit out here too. It's super easy to get caught up. And it ain't just the drugs. I'm talking scamming, hustling, robbing, frauding. You name it. Atlanta can get you caught up in some shit if you naive, gullible, or clueless. Remember what I say. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. It didn't take long for your boy to get caught up either. Like, he started school in the fall of 1987. By spring break in March of 1988, the nigga went back home to Ferguson for spring break and robbed 5 shoe stores in 8 days because he had a $300 a day crack habit. God damn! He didn't even make it a year in the ATL. Lord have mercy. So the nigga went on a robbing spree. I'm talking like Payless shoes, stores like that. One of the victims gave a description of him. She gave the description of him, his car, and his tags. And the cops went straight to his mama's house and picked that ass up. And that nigga confessed on the spot. Even then, the people still got complimentary shit to say about Maury. The detective that arrested him, his name was Joe Spies, and he said, quote, he was respectful and quiet and reserved. He wasn't your typical type of criminal, end quote. So what you mean? He wasn't acting all cracked up and cracked out? Stereotypes. That's all I gotta say. Stereotypes. Anyway, we're gonna move on. So January 19th of 1989, at the trial, he says to the judge, Judge, I was cracked out. I don't even remember them robberies. And to tell you the truth, the gun wasn't even real. I have something to ask y'all. Do y'all remember the episode about the youngest serial killer? If you don't know what I'm talking about, that means you need to go get caught up on your episodes of Melanie Mayhem. But during that episode, I said be careful about going too hard for people that you don't really know, that it's better to be SSS, the strong, silent support kind of supporter, because that shit might come back and bite you in your ass. Well, several people in the community wrote letters on Maury's behalf to the court asking for leniency. They were telling him that he was a good kid with a bad habit. Now, this is how you know that somebody in Maury's family was either the plug or had the connect, because one of the people that wrote a letter on his behalf was former U.S. House of Representative William L. Clay. This man wrote a full 1-page letter to the judge on congressional stationery, telling the judge that he had known Maury and his family for years, and he felt that Maury was deserving of special consideration in the matter. This man went on to say, quote, I am pleading that he be given leniency and probation with the condition of voluntary service at a charitable community agency, end quote. Talk about sticking your neck out there for the wrong motherfucker. Like, even if he wasn't a killer at the time, the nigga was a cracked out crackhead. He out here doing crackhead shit like robbing the motherfucking Payless. Like, sir, Mr. Representative, go do the work of the people. Stay in your lane. Y'all better stop writing these letters for these motherfuckers. If they ain't blood, they gotta get it out the mud. I'm just saying. And all of these people that wrote these letters were clearly mistaken. So much so that, when all this shit I'm about to tell you about, when it hit the fan, the press went right back to that good old Representative Mr. Clay and they asked him, how could you throw your support behind a monster? And Representative Clay, ever the politician, that motherfucker said, I don't know that man. He denied his ass like Peter did Jesus. Sir, we seen that letter. That shit was on official U.S. government House of Representatives stationery. SSS. Strong, silent support will keep your ass out the bullshit. I'm just saying, criminals doing criminal shit, it don't usually end well. It's better to wait and see than to jump out there in that water like that. I'm just saying, take it with a grain of salt, do with it what you will. Well, 6 months later, on July 5th, 1989, when he goes back to court for the sentencing, he tells the court that he's a changed man. Your Honor, I've been to rehab and I have kicked the habit. I am clean as a whistle. I am ready to be a productive member of society, Your Honor. And the judge was like, fuck all that. I ain't trying to hear this shit you talking. I've heard it all before. And 4 months before his 24th birthday, the judge's present to him was giving that ass 15 years. But don't get excited. I mean, this is state times. It wasn't like Maury was going to actually do 15 years to the door. He'll be out lickety split. This is like a 15 do 5 or something like that. So begins Maury's new life as property of the state of Missouri. To say he didn't like it would be quite the understatement. 2 months in, and this nigga writes a 3-page letter to the judge begging him to reconsider the sentence that he gave him. He said that the conditions were, quote, excruciatingly tormenting to say the least. That staying in his cell, he was crying himself to sleep every night, and every day he was thinking about taking his life. He said, quote, the whole situation is horrid and phantasmic. Okay, Maury, you a old loquacious nigga, huh? Oh, quiet ass done went and learned some big words. Phantasmic. I love it. I don't love him, but I love that word. Oh, but he wasn't done. I told y'all it was a whole 3 pages. He complained that niggas was up in there getting raped. He said the food was nasty and that there were drugs everywhere. And if he was supposed to stay clean, he needed to get the fuck out of there post haste. Like, Your Honor, can we do this expeditiously, please? This audacious nigga proposed that his 15 years be converted to a 180-day sentence because that would be enough for him to learn his lesson. Then this nigga hit him with the James Brown at the end of the letter in all caps. Please, 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 judge, don't leave me here. All I got to say, bro, is if you can't do the time, don't do the motherfucking crime. His monkey ass wasn't worried about conditions when he was out there robbing them stores with that fake ass gun to smoke cocaine and baking soda. So I'm sure you already know that the judge left that ass on red. And this was a whole letter. He still saw red. So your boy Maury just got to put his head down and try to lay low. They put him on a work detail that had him in the janitorial and the food service areas. And for the most part, he was fine. He got into a little bit of trouble, but nothing serious. He racked up about 13 conduct violations. But, I mean, if you in prison, that shit happens. It happens. But all of his violations were like minor. So nothing major. He wasn't jumping off the porch at these niggas. He wasn't up in here busting heads or nothing like that. And don't you know, on June 14th, 1994, 5 years and 3 months later, the nigga gets let out. Okay, Maury, he out. And that first one he get out, he get a little spot. Nothing spectacular, but it'll do. It was a little duplex type of situation. And his neighbor on the other side of the wall is a woman named Reverend Linda Harrison. Reverend Harrison don't have a bad thing to say about her time living next door to Maury. He was the perfect neighbor, let the Reverend tell it. He seems like he's trying to get his life together, right? Till he wasn't. See, Maury stayed in trouble with the law. He was the original bad luck schliprock. I'm talking about hella traffic offenses, speeding, running stop signs, reckless driving, driving on a suspended license. Like he just couldn't get right. And I'm going to say it's because crack is a hell of a drug. It just be calling their names. And it called Maury's ass right on back. And 4 years after he got out, he violated his parole on a possession charge. So for a nigga that don't like prison, you would think that he would walk on the right side of the law so as not to end up behind bars again. But that ain't what our boy Maury did. Oh, no, no, no. He would have 2 quick return to prison sessions. The first time he got caught with cocaine and they violated him, right? He was sent back to prison in February of 1998. And then they let him out 11 months later in January of 1999. Now, they didn't just let him out, right? He got released to the halfway house where he stayed until around May of 1999. But after he did his little stint in the halfway house, he was all the way outside when they let him go out of there, right? So we find ourselves in the spring of 2000, right? Maury has got a job waiting tables at a restaurant at the Mayfair Hotel in downtown St. Louis. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes if you listen, like really listen, a motherfucker will tell on themselves. And it seems like that's what Maury was doing. He was shooting the shit with one of his coworkers, a nigga named Dave. And when Maury would talk to Dave, he would talk about how crack and heroin were the worst things that God had put on the earth, right? That's how it started, talking about the evils of drugs. And then when he wasn't talking about the dope, he was talking about how much he loved his car, a black Mitsubishi Eclipse. That was his little baby, right? And so, again, they just shooting the shit at work. But then Maury's conversations with Dave, they kind of took a strange turn. He told Dave one day that, hey man, if you're trying to get rid of something, East St. Louis is the place to do it because ain't no police ever over there. And so Dave was like, oh, okay, that's a strange thing to say, but all right, nigga. But Dave's a nigga too. And then he was like, well, shit, Maury, what you trying to get rid of? Looking at him with that cocked up eye. And so Maury was like, well, see what had happened was one of my friends had his car stolen and they found it set on fire over there in East St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? But the police wasn't looking for his car. So, Dave kind of let the shit go. But then Maury took it one step further. You see, Dave's girlfriend worked at the Channel 30 news station. And one day, Maury strikes up a conversation with her in April of 2000. And he asked her, hey, y'all ever did any stories on them prostitutes that's getting dumped over there in East St. Louis by a serial killer? And she was like, what are you talking about? I haven't heard anything about that. And so Maury's like, shit, the streets out here talking about it. A couple of my homies put me up on it. Y'all should look into it. And our girl was skeptical, but shit, she worked for the news, so she went in and she talked to her boss about it. But the strange thing was, they actually did look into it, but there was nothing to be found. No police reports, no information from any law enforcement agency about prostitutes getting killed and dumped. So they just let the shit ride because they just figured Maury didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, and they moved on to other stories. Well, wouldn't you know, 3 months later, in July of 2000, the police went public and they said that a killer was killing prostitutes in East St. Louis. Dave and his girlfriend like, how the fuck did Maury know about this when nobody else knew about it? And they just kind of looked at each other uncomfortably. You know that look. When you know what you think you know, but you don't want to say that shit out loud. Because if you say it out loud, that means you was kicking it with a serial killer and didn't know it. But now as you think back over the conversations from the past that you done had with this nigga, you can see all kind of red flags and shit. Like that nigga telling you that East St. Louis was a good place to dump something. So, okay, Nate, what dead bodies we talking about? I mean, we done heard a little bit about Maury, but you really ain't told us shit. Well, baby, let me run it down for you. You see, Maury's mama had a house at 1001 Ford Drive in Ferguson. And see, Maury being in and out of jail, he couldn't keep his duplex or nothing, right? So I told y'all, mama pockets on swole a little bit, and she has a spare house. So what does she do? She lets her son move in to the spare house. That's what we do as parents. I mean, I'm a mama. If I had a spare house, my kids would be there. It's just what we do. I don't fault her for doing what a mama would do. Because in her eyes, Toby is a good boy. He just needs a little extra love. You know what I'm saying? Because he a little troubled a little bit, right? So she got this spare house. Maury need a place to stay. So Maury moves in and he sets up shop. The main level of the house is just what you would expect a house to be. All the furniture that's supposed to be there, the living room set, the dining room set, the bedroom. So he got all that shit, right? It looks nice. It looks normal. Everything is fine. But it's in the basement where his sinister side was allowed to just run amok. You see, Maury turned that basement into a sex dungeon. I'm talking chains attached to poles, handcuffs, mask, and his handy-dandy video camera. It would be here that he would bring all the women I'm about to tell you about, smoke crack with them, then hold them hostage and torture them. And the nigga was videotaping everything. Everything? Everything. Maury would go on the local host stroll and pick up sex workers. And I'm saying he was a decent looking guy, laid back. There was nothing about him that said, "Run, bitch, you in danger." None of that. He didn't give off no red flags. So he had no problem getting the ladies of the night to go back to his place. He would promise them a little smoke and a whole lot of dick and a couple of dollars. And shit, that sounded like a good night to them. And off to Maury's house they would go. But you see, once he got them in the house, they would go down to the basement, smoke their backs out, and then Maury would lock those women in the basement, right? He would put them on restraints and have them chained to a beam that ran from the ceiling to the floor. I'm talking about one of those posts that holds the entire house up. So it ain't going nowhere. You can't pull on it, you can't kick it, you can't do nothing. That motherfucker is gonna stay there, right? And he's keeping these women chained to these posts for days at a time, captive as sex slaves. And he made them do all kinds of shit. And the nigga recorded it all. I mean, this nigga was psychological warfare with these women. He taunted them. He called them bad mothers because they were out in these streets when they should have been home with their children. He would make them repeat after him all these vile insults and things like, "You're a bad mother, say you ain't shit." I mean, that was part of the mental torture. And then he would physically abuse them, beating them and repeatedly raping them. He would make them put on these old-timey white dresses in shades that was completely blacked out so that they couldn't see. And then he would make them dance around like some kind of twisted praise and worship dance for him. And he kept them chained up like dogs, naked, on their knees with their hands cuffed behind their backs around that goddamn pole. When I say this nigga tortured his victims, this nigga was sadistic. And like I said, we know all of this shit because he recorded himself abusing and killing these women. The nigga had tapes on tapes on tape, like the serial killer blockbuster movie outlet. Like, what in the entire fuck? So the first murder that kicked this thing off was 61-year-old Mary Shields. She was found in East St. Louis on July 31st of 2000. We know that he went back to prison a little bit later that year in November, around November 29th of 2000, because he got caught with some cocaine and that violated his probation. So November 29th, he goes back to prison and he gets out a few months later, March 19th of 2001. Now, the nigga don't waste no time after he get out because 2 short weeks later, on April 1st, 2001, 34-year-old Alyssa Greenwade was found in Washington Park. 3 days later, April 4th, 2001, an unidentified woman is found beat damn near to death in East St. Louis. I said damn near to death. She didn't die, but she can't identify her attacker. She was attacked so viciously that she is left brain damaged and is unable to speak anymore, period, much less about who attacked her. Still not done. May 15th, 1 month later, 36-year-old Teresa Wilson is found in West Alton. All of these neighborhoods are neighboring. Like, this is like a 5-mile radius. This is not no big area, right? But all of it is in the East St. Louis area. Couple of weeks later, May 23rd, 2001, 46-year-old Betty James was found in East St. Louis. Now, it wasn't enough for this nigga to rape her and kill her. Oh, no. After he dumped her body, do you know that this nigga drove over her like she was a speed bump? You heard me. He drove over her in his car. That's some old nasty work. They eventually would match the tire treads on her body, the tires on Maury's car. Ooh, that's an old stinking bastard right there. Like, whoosh, I cannot, y'all. The following month, June 29th, 2001, 36-year-old Verona Thompson is found in West Alton, just 16 feet from where Teresa Wilson was found. Like, this nigga got no stop, only go. He's like a sadistic Energizer fucking bunny. But even when these niggas blend into the background, there seems to always be a shoulda known then type of incident that happens, right? And I'm talking about something that is so weird and completely out of the norm. Well, for Maury, it happened 5 days later after killing Verona Thompson. His thirst for violence against women just couldn't be sated. There was not a lot of cool down time for him. I mean, he killed Verona June 29, 2001. On July 4th, just a few days later, neighbors reported an incident where a naked ass woman was running for her life from Maury's house. Like, how the fuck do you move on from that? Like, I don't understand. If I'm sitting on my porch and a woman burst out from my neighbor's house butt booky ass naked, I'ma have questions. I'ma be nosy. I'ma call the cops. Pull out my phone and start recording. But most of all, I'ma help this goddamn woman that's running like she's Sha'Carri Richardson doing the 200. Of course, a slick ass nigga like this one, he always got a good story for what had happened was. You see, Maury claimed that he had went to the strip club the night before and brought a little something home, you know? He said the chick slipped him a Mickey, and when he woke up, he saw her going through his shit trying to rob him. He said he lunges at her and she just run out the house, butt booky ass naked. Like, sir, that's the best you could come up with? Cause I'm saying, if a bitch trying to rob you, if you catch her, she gonna try to talk her way out of what she was doing and talk her way into her clothes before she jet out your house. I'm just saying, it ain't much to make a bitch run out butt ass naked, right? Like, I'm just saying. The police are called, but no charges are pressed against anyone. I still want to know, how often is it that people see a naked woman running for their lives out of somebody's house? I feel like we've heard this before in a few earlier pod episodes, right? Can we not normalize ignoring a naked woman running for her life? I promise y'all, if I see it, I'm going to get involved. To me, that's a neon sign at this point that's saying that this motherfucker is crazy and doing some sick shit to make a bitch run butt ass naked out the house. Come on, think about it. We will square up on a nigga if it's just some regular run of the mill drama shit, right? Squared up, nigga. We finna nook if you buck. What? But to leave the scene sans close? No. That's actual fight or flight response kicking in. The woman refused to talk to the police. We have no idea what she endured before she was able to bust out that house. And whatever it was, it shut her the fuck down. She was just happy to have gotten away with her life. And while I feel that, but because she couldn't or wouldn't speak up, more women just like her are going to pay the ultimate price while this nigga is running around here unchecked. Women like Yvonne Cruz. She was 50 years old when they found her August 25th of 2001 in East St. Louis. They found Maury's DNA in her vagina. Then in October of 2001, 33-year-old Brenda Beasley found in East St. Louis. She's a user of the crack, but Brenda worked. She was a functioning crack smoker, right? She had a job at a fast food restaurant, and she sold a little ass on the side. You know, I ain't knocking you, but they found Maury's DNA in her vagina. Once again, Maury goes back to prison. November 29, 2001, this time for drug possession. The funny thing is, when he went inside, the bodies stopped dropping. And when I say bodies, I'm talking fresh bodies. Because while he may have been down for the count because he was locked up, his handiwork from the shit that he had done prior to being locked up, that shit was still continuing to be found. Like on January 30th of 2002, an unidentified skeletal remain of a woman was found in Muscatau. March 11, 2002, another unidentified skeleton was found in Highland. March 28th of 2002, an unidentified skeletal remain found in Columbia, Illinois. Now, mind you, again, these unidentified skeletal remains were not killed in 2002. They were just found in 2002. They had been killed many months beforehand, right? Because they were skeletons. The authorities think, based on this, that Brenda Beasley was the last actual factual victim in 2001 of Maury's reign of terror. And again, this is only because he went to prison and he wasn't out on the streets to continue his being able to kill innocent women. Well, they don't keep him in jail for forever. Maury gets released from prison again in March of 2002, and he goes back to the house that his mama let him live in Ferguson. And on the outside looking in, his neighbors think he's just a regular dude. They see him outside cleaning the gutters and cutting the grass and washing his car. You know, he wave and shit. Just a regular ass nigga, right? But these skeletal remains still keep popping up, and no one is really giving a fuck until a local reporter named Bill Smith, He did a story on one of those women, Teresa Wilson, as a way to humanize her to the public, to make these humans see that it's not prostitutes that are being killed, but humans that are being killed. So he writes this story about Teresa, and the public's reaction was good. They want the police to do more. And that's a good thing. Anything that puts pressure on law enforcement to solve a crime is A-okay in my book, right? The reporter that wrote the story, Bill, he feeling good. He is riding the wave of the public sentiment and their reaction to his writing. Then, on May 21st, 2002, a letter comes into the mail in the newsroom of the Post-Dispatch where he worked, addressed to him. The letter says, "Dear Bill, nice sob story about Teresa Wilson. Write one about Green Wade. Write a good one and I'll tell you where many others are to prove I'm real. Here's directions to number 17. Search in a 50-yard radius from the X. Put the story in the Sunday paper like the last one." Just a old short, sweet, to the point note, right? But this nigga actually sent a letter to a news reporter. Like, what a narcissistic, egocentric bastard, right? He wanted more spotlight. The focus of Bill's story was not him, it was Teresa. And he couldn't stand that. These niggas be so smart so they think. He really thought that he was doing something. The nigga even included a map to where that victim that he called number 17 could be found. Now, mind you, I've only covered 12 in this story that were murdered. Yet this nigga talking about 17. How many more are out there that someone hasn't stumbled across yet? Oh, my Lord, honey. This an old narcissistic, sadistic motherfucker. He needed a spotlight, and since nobody was checking for his work, he had to make them. And this dude didn't want to be in the background any longer. Well, at first, the reporter thinks it's a prank. But he's white, and you know they can't help but be curious. You know, they can't help it. Especially because the letter included a map like a real live pirate's treasure map with X marking the spot. So Bill goes and takes a look, and then he notifies the authorities that there's a dead body and that there are more apparently. He gives the letter and the map to law enforcement, and the body that the letter was talking about was found on May 25th, 2002 in the spot that Maury had marked on the map. But it's here, with this sending this letter, that this nigga finally makes a mistake. Instead of staying in the shadows where he had been relatively unknown, he had to make his motherfucking presence felt, right? And that motherfucking map would be his undoing. So you gotta understand, in the digital age, everything you do leaves a footprint that can be traced right back to the computer, laptop, tablet, or cell phone that did the looking. And so the FBI cybercrimes people, they got with the Google people to find out who in the United States of America had looked at the coordinates for this particular location between May 18th and May 24th, 2002. And so Google did their Google thing, and lo and behold, only one user in all the people in America had looked up those particular coordinates on Expedia.com of all places on May 20th. They said that the computer had zoomed in on the map 10 times to get that exact location that was printed out and sent to the reporter. Oh, my Lord, honey, when I say they can see everything, they can see everything. And so the people at Google, they gave the police the IP address that searched for that area online. Y'all know that the IP address is basically the home address of the electronic device. In this particular instance, the IP address was 65.227.106.78, and it was connected via a phone line. Well, all right. They made one more call over there to MCI WorldCom, and boom, they got an email. Maury Travis at MSN.com. Got your ass now, nigga. And on June 7, 2002, the police and the FBI show up at Maury's house at 7 a.m. with a warrant to search the premises, rousing this nigga out of his good sleep. And you know he ain't got nothing but attitude for their ass. I mean, this nigga is like indignant. He on some, do you know what time it is? What the fuck you want at my house at this time of morning? Like, he's really doing his best Karanisha. But the FBI is unfazed. The agents say they looked him dead in his eyes and said, you know why we here. Maury took a step back and said, shit, let me go put some clothes on in. He gets dressed, and they sitting in his living room as Maury is being questioned while the police are searching his house and his possessions. Well, that car of his, boom, the tires match the tire tread marks on the body of Betty James. Then, as they keep searching, they find his torture chamber. But dig this, Maury had a girlfriend, and she was there while all this was going on. Now, no, she did not live with him, but she was kind of a regular at his place. They had only been dating for about 3-4 months. But how the fuck did she not know what this nigga was doing in the basement? I'm gonna tell you, she said that, quote, he told me not to go down there. What? Girl, girl. Like, if he said that, how the fuck you didn't go down there? Let me tell y'all something. If I'm at my man's house, it ain't a door I haven't opened. There's not a drawer I ain't went through, a cabinet I ain't looked in, and as far as giving me a directive not to touch something, that's the first motherfucking place I'm gonna look. Like, houseway, make it make sense. But I guess it take all kind of people to make up a world. I don't know, but it ain't me, cause boo-boo, I'm snooping. I come to your house, I'm snooping. I'm looking all up in your medicine cabinet to see what kind of drugs you taking. All that shit. I'm looking. So while this search warrant is being executed, the FBI and the local law enforcement have about a 2-hour chat with your boy Maury in the living room. And instead of answering their questions, all he wanted to know was how the fuck they had found him. Like, he is really unbothered. But when they told him that it was his computer that put the nail in his coffin, that nigga loses his shit and has a whole motherfucking hissy fit. Cause smart motherfuckers never think that they can play themselves. Yeah, nigga. You the reason you got caught. Serves your monkey ass right. Well, after his temper tantrum, they load that ass up in the car. Cause we've seen enough. We know you did this shit. Let's go on down to the station and continue our little chat. Well, they're still executing that search warrant. On his computer, they find drafts of the letter that he sent to the newspaper reporter. And in the basement, oh my God, in the basement, there was an overabundance of evidence. I'm talking blood on the walls, on the floor, on the ceiling, on the furniture, on the carpet. Like, this nigga ain't never cleaned up shit. They find stun guns and belts and newspaper clippings of any time they actually printed something about his murder, he clipped that shit. And then there were the tapes. The motherfucking tapes of him recording his interactions with these poor women. Tape after tape after motherfucking tape. Just rows and rows of tapes. In one of the tapes found in the basement, I'm talking VHS tapes, you can see Maury wrap a belt around a woman's neck and snap that motherfucker as tight as he could, and then the woman just goes limp. And then this audacious punk ass nigga look at the camera and says, quote, that's kill number 1. In another video, the mental torture is on full display. While this woman is chained to a pole, naked, on her knees, he has this conversation with her. He says, you want to say something to your kids? And she's like, I'm sorry. He said, who's raising your kids? She said, me and my mom and my daddy. He tell her, you ain't raising shit, bitch. You over here on your back smoking crack. You ain't going home tomorrow neither. I'm gonna keep you about a week before I do you in. Like, sadistic as fuck. Based off the tapes alone, the authorities can see that there are at least 20 women that probably never made it out of the basement alive. And as if that wasn't heinous enough, police find diagrams of a planned addition that he was going to build on the basement. He was going to add 2 cells to the basement. The nigga had diagrams for all of the accoutrements for torture that he was going to build in. He even had a list of the things that he needed to buy in order to keep a bitch stored for a long time. I'm talking about shit like Ensure and adult diapers. Just a sick, twisted motherfucker. And thank God he was not able to go through with his addition to the house plans. Like, he wasn't able to remodel. Thank God he was not able to follow through with his remodeling plans. And what's crazy? Well, it's not like everything else I've told you hadn't been crazy, but what's odd? They found the videotapes, right? But they never found the video camera or any other camera in the house. What the fuck happened to him? I don't know, but my money is on his mama. I'm sorry. She know more. She knew more. She just didn't say shit. Why you say that, Nate? What you know? Well, the police found a letter that she had written Maury while he was in jail in 2001. And in it, she tells him that he needs to take anger management classes. Now, mind you, this is her advice to the son that everybody says wouldn't hurt a flea, but mama telling him that he need to take anger management classes. Mama knew something. She knew a whole lot of something, I bet. She went on to write that she tried her best to protect him and that he should write a letter to the person that put him in the private hell he has to live, as well as he needs to go to church and pray for help. Nope. I don't care what they say. His mama knew something. As a mama, we always know something going on with our children. If you got any connection with your kid, you know when they out here fucking up. I think Maury shared a lot of the shit that he was going through with her. I ain't got no proof, but I believe it. Because again, that was a hell of a kind of letter to write your son in fucking jail, right? She knew something. Now, this will be the last time that he was in prison when he got caught up on that possession charge. So the person that put him in that private hell was him because he wouldn't stop fucking with that dope. So who the fuck was his mama referring to for him to write a letter to? Or was that code for something else? We'll never know because mama ain't talking. So the law has all this evidence coming in and they got Maury too, right? So shit. Now all they got to do is just build their case. This should be open and shut. The FBI is on it. They finna book that ass on federal charges. They got buku evidence. You know, we good. When they got to the station, Maury asked for something to drink. So after he got through drinking, they took the can that he was drinking from. Now they got his DNA to compare it to all the shit they found. First thing they compared to was the evidence that they found on Brenda Beasley and Yvonne Cruz. It's a match to Maury. But one thing that is abundantly clear, Maury ain't trying to go back to prison for the rest of his life. See, this right here, this ain't no bullshit possession charge where he could be in and out. This is serial murder. This is capital crimes. The system is going to throw a whole book at his ass, like the whole encyclopedia. And he couldn't have that. So he must have said something because for whatever reason, they put him on suicide watch. And at this particular jail where he was, their suicide watch involved having a trustee standing at a window, like a picture window, that looked into the cell of the inmate that they're trying to keep from unaliving themselves. In addition to that trustee looking on, there's also supposed to be a prison guard that does a rotation to go through every 15 minutes to make sure that everything is everything inside that motherfucking cell, right? Well, on June 10th, 2002, just 3 goddamn days after his arrest, it all comes to an anticlimactic end. You see, in Maury's cell, how the window that the trustee was looking through, the way it was situated, it left a portion of his cell obstructed from the view of the trustee. He couldn't see the entire scene, right? But the trustee was not allowed to physically go into the cell of the person that they're looking out for. They could only watch from outside that window. And of course, if they seen some shit go on, they raise the alarm and a guard will come through and handle the business. Well, this particular day, this June 10th, 2002, nobody at the jail is doing their motherfucking job, right? The trustee sees that Maury is out of his sight in that blind spot in that cell, but he in the cell. The nigga can't escape, so shit, ain't no worries, right? The guard that's supposed to make the rounds every 15 minutes has missed 2 of those rounds. So this has given Maury about 45 minutes of uninterrupted time. And that nigga put that time to work. Now, mind you, ain't nothing in his cell but the bed, a little mattress, a sheet, a toilet sink combo thingy, and a vent on the wall at the top of the cell. Do y'all know that this nigga tore his bed sheet into strips and looped those strips through the vent? He put those torn sheet strips, some of them in his mouth to kind of make it, harder to breathe. And then he puts a pillowcase over his head. Some kind of way he manages to tie his hands behind his back and hang himself using that goddamn vent. By the time the guard finally does his rounds, Maury is dead. Now the shit really finna hit the fan. Somebody about to lose their job over this shit. Now this nigga Maury couldn't leave without having the last word. Of course he left a suicide note where he ain't apologized for a motherfucking thing. It was basically an apology letter to his mama, and it said, quote, "Dear Mom, I'm sorry for the pain this has caused you and the family. My death seems to be the only way out and a fast end to all the publicity. You were the best mother a man could have, but I've been sick a long time. sick in the head since about 14. I don't know why. I was just sick. I've never felt normal or happy at any time in my life. I think about the life I led and what's ahead of me. This seems to be the best solution for all involved, especially me, because I won't spend the rest of my life locked up, or worse, let them kill me with a needle. Tell Grandma Marina, James, and everybody I loved them dearly. I love you the most, but you know that. Forever your son, Toby Travis. Fuck ass nigga. 3 days was just not enough time for the police and the FBI to fully question him, right? They hadn't even scratched the surface when your boy Maury removed himself from the conversation permanently, right? So now the police are just left to speculate on how many women did Maury actually kill. They know of 12 bodies for sure, but there are more tapes than bodies currently found. On one of the tapes is a woman that is identified by her boyfriend, but her body was never seen again, dead or alive. And because these women are in many cases living in, on, or for the streets, they may have cut contact with their families long before their untimely run-ins with Maury. In that case, they may have never ever been reported missing because their families just assume they still out there on these streets. In the aftermath of all this bullshit, Maury's family and long-term friends just could not wrap their minds around the fact that he was a raping raper that raped and a murdering murderer that murdered. Like, them people was shook. One even went on the record, not SSS at all. This woman named Khadijah Massey, who said that she had been Maury's friend for more than 20 years, she said, quote, "I know he committed the crimes, but he don't have a violent bone in his body." Ma'am, can you be more contradictory? He killed. That means he has at least one violent bone in his body. This broad go on to say, "I just don't get it. He's a robber. He's not a murderer." If the cops would have told me he robbed the bank, I would have said, all right, I can believe that. But even when he did all that robbing before, he was never aggressive. He wouldn't hurt a flea. Again, ma'am, you see the evidence against him. You know what he did. The nigga is violent. The nigga was violent. The nigga was sadistic. And you didn't have a clue. And yet you all loud and in disbelief about this nigga being violent and sadistic? Like, make it make sense. Black women, our Achilles heel is the black man. We will take up for them loud and proud even when they fucked up to the motherfucking core. It's a hard pill to swallow, sure. Nobody wants to believe that the person they loved, cared for, looked to as a family member, your homie, your lover, your friend, was a real-life monster. And you were clueless. But it's okay. We're human. We're not infallible. And humans are experts at hiding shit, like A1 professionals. And we know this. Outside families, babies, side pieces, sexual orientation, fetishes, money, a body, you name it. Humans can hide it. And sometimes hide it well. The phrase, "take that shit to your grave," that's an actual factual statement because there's so much shit that humans take to their grave without letting another person on this planet know about the shit that they did, right? But yet we are always so surprised when we find out somebody we know and love was hiding something. At this point, we should just all expect that everybody we know and people that we don't know are hiding some shit. Little shit, big shit, and all the kinds of shit in between. Some of y'all listening right now thinking about some shit you hiding right this second now that I done brought this topic to the group chat. And it's quite okay. I'm hiding something too. Maybe. I'm just saying. You never really know a person. You know what a person wants you to know. Like Maury's friend, she just knew that Maury didn't, couldn't, and wouldn't fuck with a chick that smoked crack or prostituted her body. In her mind, he only went for the women that were stable and solid and had a good head on their shoulders. For her Maury, he wasn't down with that kinky shit. How totally wrong she was, and probably still to this day doesn't want to believe what has been proven as factual. Remember, we see and we don't see. But I'm gonna tell y'all something. That funky ass mama of his, she still had that little house of horrors. And do you know that this bitch put that house up for rent and did not tell the renter, a young single mother with a young daughter, what actually happened in the house that she was renting her? Oh, no, no, no. This woman found out that she was living in an actual little house of horrors on TV. Like, imagine flipping channels and you stop on one of the crime channels, ID channel, crime scene investigator, whatever, just a channel that show all crime all the time, right? And then they're doing an episode on serial killer. And then you see your motherfucking house on the screen. And then you find out that the house you are renting is the final resting place for a dozen or so women that were raped, tortured, and killed in the basement where your daughter down there playing at. Man, oh girl felt some kind of fucking way. And she was absolutely warranted, right? She calls up Maury's mama and she was like, look here, I gotta go. You didn't tell me what happened in this house. I don't feel comfortable. I got a daughter. I've got to get out of this house. Do y'all know that this funky bitch tried to hold that unsuspecting renter to that lease? But the young girl was not having that, as she should not have. She called the housing authority and told them she wanted to move and why, and then she called the news station. Baby, the housing authority came through for her sister. They let her move her Section 8 and break that lease and go somewhere else that wasn't haunted by the ghost of Maury's kills. But that mama? While legally she did not have to tell that girl what happened in that house because there's not a law on the books that makes it illegal to not do so. But morally, bitch, you are morally bankrupt. And I still say that you knew what the fuck your son was into, you funky bitch. I'm sorry, y'all. I told y'all this case, it hit different for me this week. Y'all pray for your girl. I told y'all this case got me hot enough to fry fish. Baby. But like seriously. I really just can't stop thinking about how many women are dead in cities and counties across America that the cops haven't attributed to a serial killer. How many law enforcement agencies aren't seeing the pattern? There has to be something that we can do because the police are not going to do it for us. We, the wonderful, beautiful women of varying melanated hues, have got to figure this shit out for ourselves together. Because one of my epiphanies this week, it hit me like a ton of bricks. They are taking us out. Black women. They never kill other niggas. And if they do, it was usually by accident. These dickheads are not killing other owners of dicks. All the stories I bring you each week may have a varying method of the mayhem, but the subject or the target of the mayhem is always black women and occasionally white folks. Let's be real. These men never kill other men. And if they do, like last week, it was on some I'm gay and I don't want to be gay type of shit, right? But for the most part, black men kill black women, right? We are being hunted. And these fuck ass niggas are using us as their prey. We gotta wake up and recognize this, ladies. These regular, unassuming, nice guys are the ones that are out here fucking us up. If you do happen to go on social media and see where I post their pictures, these niggas ain't got tattoos all across their face and teardrops and shit and looking like goddamn they just stepped out of hell. No, they're regular ass looking niggas. And they're the ones out here fucking us up. And we don't know because we don't know. But it's going on. It's been going on. It's still going on right fucking now. Somewhere in a lot of places, there are women that have been snatched up by a man hiding in plain sight. Somebody's mother, somebody's sister, auntie, cousin, grandmama is being held against her will right now. And the only thing that we have on our side is that these motherfuckers can't stop at one, right? It's like Lay's potato chips. They just can't have just one. And they also usually have a hunting ground or a signature move. That's it. That's all we got. So let's use this shit to our advantage. Like, this is the digital age. We need to get vocal. We need to spread the word about women that are missing in our lives. We need a repository of some type that we can start to spot these patterns that the police can't. Like, just imagine if 50 women are missing in such and such area of such and such city. If we can see it, we can put pressure on the ones that are sworn to serve and protect us. But we gotta know first. Sisters, they fucking us up. The vulnerable among us. The women that like to do that shit that have you living from pillar to post and doing whatever they gotta do to get the shit that they like to do. Those ladies. Drug addiction is a disease, and it's harder for some to leave that shit alone than others, right? But just because they like to smoke or shoot or sniff their backs out, that don't mean that somebody has the right to take their lives and discard them like trash. But remember, this is episode 21, and it ain't all drug-addicted prostitutes that are the prey. They fucking up single moms, they fucking up married moms. They are leaving orphans to live a motherless life. They killing college students. They killing nurses. They killing fast food workers. They killing women that are out for a morning jog. They're killing women that are out running errands. Women are dying, and police aren't attributing it as a murder when it was truly some nigga with a twisted mind. It wasn't an accidental death. It was very much on purpose. It's the niggas we work with. It's the niggas we know from the neighborhood. It's the niggas we meet on the apps. Like, they are every fucking where. And we gotta stop thinking that black folks don't do this shit. It's killing us. Literally. I don't know the answer, y'all. But my mission and my purpose with this podcast is to educate, inform, and while I do it, entertain y'all a little bit. Take this heavy ass, serious as fuck subject matter and try to lighten it up a little bit, because that's what we do as black folks, right? But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody under the sound of my voice, we gotta stay vigilant, y'all. I know we all have people that we love from afar, that we have distanced ourselves from for whatever reason. And I ain't saying that you gotta move a bitch in or nothing like that, but check on those distant loves. If you haven't seen them for a while and that's odd, make a police report. Don't just assume that they are off doing whatever. Because one thing in my experience with, shall we say, our more transient friends and family, they are creatures of habit. And even when the streets are their home, they don't stray far and they damn sure don't stay gone for too long. They always pop up. And when they stop popping up, something is wrong. We are our sister's keepers. Like, for real, y'all. And you know what else we are? We fans of the podcast. Sure are. So while you here, go on ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button right there on your screen. Right there, boo-boo. That one. Then I want you to make me feel like you love me, right? Give me some of them stars. Your comments, y'all, on these various streaming services make my entire day. Y'all got me out here walking on clouds, and I sure appreciate you for it. Y'all can look me up on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, and I recently launched the YouTube channel. It's called Melanin Mayhem Podcast Channel, so you can find me there as well. And I know I need to get my social media game up, and I'm working on it. Just bear with the country girl just a little bit longer, and I promise to have a more robust social media posting game. I promise. But until then, blame it on my head and not my heart. And if you know of a Melanin Mayhem maker that I should be doing an episode on, go ahead and drop me a line over at melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com. It's going to be a long week without y'all, but we're going to have to make it do what it do, okay, New Orleans Nation? But in the meantime, in between time, I want y'all to stay safe. I need y'all to stay vigilant and check on your peoples in, out, or around the streets. And last but certainly not least, don't forget, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. It's one love, New Orleans Nation, and the country girl is out of here.